Ooh, okay, and this is the inside of that panel we just removed. I'm not sure if the camera's gonna see it or not, but that there, that looks like a spider. First time I've seen a spider in one of these things. This here is a viewer's very nasty PlayStation 4. At least that's what I think it is. I know it's a PlayStation 4. I'm just not sure if it's very nasty or not. If it's in this playlist, chances are it is, but to be honest with you, I don't really know what it looks like on the inside of this thing. And that's the case with a lot of consoles that make their way into the studio. They'll show me exterior photos. You can see that, like, you know, it's dusty on the outside, but how dusty is it on the inside? We gonna find out. So for those who are new to this playlist, the premise here is simple. We reach out to folks in and around the Orlando, Florida area and offer to deep clean their game consoles for free. We charge them $0 and 0 cents. That's right, nothing at all, so long as they're okay with us taking on their consoles for a few days and cleaning them and filming them. We film these processes and monetize these videos once they're uploaded, so that's how I make my money, and I don't feel like offloading any of that cost to the owners who are already gracious enough to loan us their consoles for a few days. As I said, there's not too much about this particular PS4 that I'm aware of, other than the fact that it does look a bit dusty on the exterior. For some reason, the owner of this console seemed super confident that it was going to be nasty on the inside. I suppose it's not really a surprise though, because he also told me in the same sentence that it hadn't been cleaned once in over 6 years of ownership. So it's probably caked in here. And in this video, we're gonna deep clean it. Stay with me. NZXT's BLD Foundation pre-built PCs are a great way for folks to easily get into PC gaming without breaking the bank. Reeling over 100 FPS in League and Valorant and over 60 FPS in Fortnite, all with settings at medium and in 1080p. That ain't too bad at all. And perhaps best of all, this build is super easy to upgrade down the line with a discrete graphics card, since you've still got 6 multi-threaded Zen 3 CPU cores to pair it with. NZXT's BLD pre-builds waive the $99 build fee since they're made in bulk, and you'll get a 2-year parts and labor warranty with every purchase. Learn more about BLD systems, including this Foundation PC here, via the link below. Before we get started, let's talk tools and cleaning supplies. Everything you're about to see is linked in the video descriptions. If you want to support us on Amazon through our affiliate links, that would be appreciated. We get pennies on the dollar, but it does add up. First up, I've got this knockoff iFixit toolkit. That's exactly what it is. It has pry tools, it has many different screw heads, including a screwdriver, which is really nice, and it's pretty cheap, so that's a plus. Next up, we've got Q-tips. You're gonna need these, trust me, in combination with IPA or isopropyl alcohol. I recommend 90% or above, just so that when it dries, it doesn't leave behind too many impurities. I've also got shop towels. These are great at absorbing oils and other fluids and things, including the IPA that we use. And I've also got this electric duster, which is a beast. It's not the most powerful thing in the world, but combining the blowing power with the nylon bristles here, these anti-static bristles, comes in really handy, being able to scrub things away. There's a lot of dust that doesn't come up just by shooting air at it, and so being able to scrub at the same time is super helpful. Now, the very first thing we should do before we take this console apart is attempt to power it on and ensure that it posts, that it looks like it functions no problem. If it doesn't, and we go about disassembling the entire thing, deep cleaning it and putting it all back together, it's possible the viewer could blame us for what was already an existing problem when it showed up. So this is peace of mind for us, especially as a business. Now, if I'm doing this for free, but if you were running a console fixing or console cleaning business, then you would want to do this ahead of time, just to cover yourself in the event that your story doesn't match up with the owners, because then that's just going to be a really nasty fiasco. You might even end up in court for it, and it's just not worth it. For a console this old and this cheap, just do yourself a bit of due diligence ahead of time. So the power button, I've totally forgotten where the power button is on the PS4. On the original one. Oh, here it is, right in them. There we go. Okay, power's up, the speaker works, LED up top works, I can hear the hard disk drive spooling, optical drive, and there we go. That is a post. So this is all we need to see. We're not going to be logging in, changing settings or anything like that. There's no point. Again, our task is just to deep clean it. So let's turn it back off and get to disassembly. So the first thing we need to do with this PlayStation 4 is remove this smaller top cover. This is where the hard disk drive is housed, and I believe, there we go. Pretty straightforward. This just slides on out. And using our knockoff iFixit toolkit, we can remove this one screw and then slide the hard disk drive out from the front. Also, I've noticed that some PS4s have a different hard disk drive screw location. Some of the ways that they are removed are different. So it's just different versions of the PS4. Just keep in mind that your disassembly process might not be exactly like this one's. Next step is to remove the 2 screws behind these warranty stickers. Now, this PS4 had a warranty back in the day, but it no longer has one, so I'm not too worried about preserving these. Pry tool comes in handy to get the stickers removed, and we'll get rid of the remainder of the gunk. Actually, there's not much gunk on this one, but up top here, we'll clean this up once we clean the housings of the unit. And these are going to be T8 Torx screws. Now this back part should come up. I don't believe there's anything else holding it in. And some of these PS4s have like more than... Oh, I don't know, that feels like it's held on still.
2,000 years later.
All right, that took way longer than it needed to. Now we can see the system fan, and yes, it does have quite a bit of dust caked up along the fins. It's not terrible, so this isn't really like too bad, although we will want to see the underside of this because this is going to be next to the heatsink, and that's where I expect a lot of the dust is caked because all that dirty air over time being pulled in is going to get trapped there and in this fan. Ooh, okay, and this is the inside of that panel we just removed. I'm not sure if the camera's going to see it or not, but that looks like a spider. First time I've seen a spider in one of these things. Oh, no, I take it back. It's another one of these bugs that we found, and actually we found these in other consoles. I'm not sure why these like hang out in them. I guess because they're nice and warm, and maybe it just, yeah, they like the breeze, I don't know. But not the first time I've seen one of these, and probably won't be the last. Now we need to remove the power supply. I love that these PSUs are integrated in these PlayStations. It's always just been really nice not having to deal with an extra brick laying around. These are held in by, again, T8. These might be T9 Torx screws, but I'm using a T8 bit just because it fits a bit more snug in there. And we're obviously not going to be stripping anything. These aren't torqued down that far. But we'll remove these surrounding the unit itself, along with this interference shield. Now I think these screws, yep, just like in the PS4 Pro, these go all the way down. So you need to remove these before you take out that unit. Get the other one out on this side. This will just slide on out again. There we go. So this we'll set aside. And then the unit itself, I want to be careful because there's still a cable attached here. I want to pull up on it. There we go. All right, now this cable. This was what we didn't want to deal with last time. So we're gonna set the unit down. Just set it right here, and we're gonna pull this up very carefully. And there we go. Okay, so much cleaner this time. Also helps that this one wasn't totally chewed up before we got to it. Now we can disconnect these ribbon cables. Now this one in the center, it's important that you lift up on both sides of this, this black tab here, so that releases the cable itself from the connector below. So pull up on both sides, you can see it's a lot looser now, and then we can slide the cable out from above. These other two here, I believe, just slot in. I don't think there's a locking mechanism, so this one we could just pull out. And same for this smaller one right here. Just lift straight out. Now we need to remove this board here. That's 2 Phillips screws. We'll also remove the antenna here that's running on top of it, and then kind of guide this cable back around. It is quite dusty. And then we can lift straight up where this antenna connects to the main board. And we can set this to the side for now. Now the Blu-ray drive is held in by a few Torx screws. So start with the edges. I believe there are 4 of these, possibly 5. There might be one more hiding somewhere. Oh, nope, there we go. All right, that was simple. And flipping back over to the other side, we have, not there, but here and here, we have 2 Torx screws. So remove these, and then we should be able to slide this larger side panel off. Actually, this is the top of the PS4. Let's see how easy that is. It's always easier said than done with these. Let's see, this one really, oh, okay. Actually, that was easier than I thought it would be. Okay, so here is the other side of the PS4. Now we can remove this ribbon cable here, the very top, actually closest to you. So basically this entire metal cover needs to be removed, and to do that we need to take out several Torx screws all the way around the perimeter of it. Now quick tip to remember where these screws are located, especially when it comes to reassembly, take a photo of your progress, and you'll also be able to see all of the screws involved. So I've removed all the Torx screws, so I know that the remaining holes are for those, but we've also got some flat black Phillips screws here, and also a few of the rounded kind of chrome Phillips screws as well. So to know where those go, I've taken a photo, and it should be pretty straightforward. Actually, we have 3 more Phillips screws back here, and these are flat and metallic. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. I think that is it. This should just lift straight up now. Kind of slide it out, being very careful. You don't want to nick any of these SMDs or touch the memory chips around the APU. But yeah, you know what, surprisingly, considering this hasn't been open in 6 years, this looks pretty good. Now it does get quite dusty in here around the fan, and that's again what we expected, but the underside of this motherboard looks quite clean. So we can go ahead and disconnect this cable. Slide right out, and we need to remove these 2 screws that secure the back plate of the cooler to the main board. So we'll start kind of working each off. Finish this one, pull it up, and this one here, pull it up the remainder of the way. And this should come up as well. All right. I don't think there's anything else on this side. So let's remove this little grill, and then we should be able to pry the board up carefully, of course. We've got the power button. Unlatch that. Okay. And nice and easy. Wow, there we go. Now from just glancing at the thermal paste atop this APU, I'd say it actually looks pretty good for its age. It doesn't look like this is the kind of stuff that's supposed to cure, so it's not gonna be super crusty. At least that's, again, the impression I get just from the texture of it. So we'll be sure to clean this up, but for now we need to tackle the remainder of the frame. So that means removing the remainder of these Phillips screws. These are the ones with the round head. I'm not sure, is that all? Oh, it is, that's it. All right, and then this plate slides out, and that leaves us with just the fan in the frame itself, this little plastic housing. And then you can see our heatsink is actually integrated into this metal cover here. So it's just one more Phillips screw, and we should be Gucci. This should just slide right out now. All right, so now it'll be so much easier to clean with it removed from the frame. Last thing to do then is remove the power supply from its little housing, and this one is just it's just surrounded by plastic. So we need to pry it up along the edges. And you want to be very careful with this portion of the project if you're not familiar with electronics and what things in here could harm you. If you haven't properly drained the capacitors, they very well could kill you. And that's not an exaggeration. So again, do this at your own risk and only if you're confident in your ability to work around this stuff. And here we are. Looking good. Now this, this unit looks pretty clean. Again, I'm actually surprised for a 6-year-old console or one that hasn't been cleaned in 6 years. It looks really good. The underside of the housing though, not so much. We definitely need to clean this. And that's about it. This is the entire PS4 torn down about as far as it will go, again within reason. So what I've done is sort on this table by material. Most of the stuff here on the right is metallic, so we'll treat that a bit differently than the stuff in the middle, which is mostly plastics. You can see that the plastic stuff is what's probably the dirtiest. There's a lot of really nasty dust caked up in the corners around this, and also dust up here. No, that is not a reflection. That is how bright that dust is up there. So that's pretty gross. And we'll clean the internal housings as well. And then off here to the left, we've got the PCB. So this is the power supply motherboard, or not the motherboard, but the power supply circuit board. And then we've got the main board, the motherboard up here, and that's the APU that we're gonna be cleaning. The hard disk drive we remove from its cage, and we'll also clean that, although this one actually looks pretty clean already. And lastly, we've got this fan, which honestly, I've seen worse. Like, it's not that bad, but you can see we've got a lot of dust lined on the inside of these fins, and these PS4 and PS4 Pro fans are pretty annoying to clean because they just, like, there's so many different blades first off, and then they're all kind of crunched together there toward the middle, making it a bit more difficult. So I'll have to get a brush or something. A lot of you recommended using a brush with IPA to get into those small little crevices. So this will probably be the thing we tackle last. All right, now it is hot as balls outside. We're gonna get rid of this dust with some water, which is always safe on plastics. Oh yeah, that looks so much better already. Round 2. All right, and now let's bring these back in and dry them up. Now, if you notice that a lot of your plastics have stains that aren't coming up by just spraying them with water, you'll probably want to add soap, and that also shouldn't harm the plastic. And I said earlier that water's safe for plastics. Obviously, that's within a reasonable temperature range. You'll melt the plastic if the water's hot enough. But in this case, it is actually cleaning up quite nicely, and there weren't too many stains to begin with. So I think that just the water alone should suffice. Now, if you notice, especially in this case here, we've got a lot of water that can get trapped inside grills and things. What you can do is blast it with some air,
That should get rid of most of it. By the way, once we're finished drying these off by hand, what I'll do is sit these outside so that the sun can evaporate the remainder of the water in a reasonable time frame. I think this PS4 is gonna look almost brand new when we're finished with it. I mean, it was already in okay shape. I wouldn't say that it was like super nasty. We did find that cockroach in there. But I mean, you know, it's a moderate amount of dust when you consider how old this PS4 is and the fact that apparently it was never cleaned before. The owner of this one probably had a fairly clean room. So I think it's gonna clean up. I think it's gonna clean up quite nicely.
Now moving on to the metal bits, you can see this heatsink that's integrated into this one here isn't all that dirty. There is some dust, but this is not cataclysmic by any means. We've seen much worse than this in this playlist alone. So I'm gonna start first with electric dusting. And then we'll take some IPA and shop towels and we'll scrub all this down, including this thermal paste built up here. And oh yes, quality is much better than what we're used to in some older consoles. I'm really surprised by this, considering it doesn't look like it's ever been opened. Scrub-a-dub-a-dub. See if we can get this heatsink looking new. Yeah. All right, the IPA is really helping here. Had a few stains on the top of this, but they appear to be gone. Oh yeah, this piece is looking virtually brand new, not bad. Same goes for the second metal panel, electric duster, followed up by a quick scrub. Now we'll scrub the remaining smaller pieces. Ha! You can see it looks like he's actually got Grand Theft Auto in there now. That's pretty funny. Next on my list is the main board, and to start with this one, I'm gonna go ahead and clean off this thermal compound. I'll use a towel first, and then I will start with IPA, and then I'll switch over to Q-tips, especially for these fine crevices and things. Q-tips will come in very, very handy. Again, I'm very impressed with the way that this paste hasn't just like become super crusty after years of use. This is not what you'd typically find in a 6-year or 7-year-old console. So with this APU back to looking like it just rolled off the assembly line, we can now focus on the remainder of the main board. I don't think there aren't really too many areas that are gonna need IPA. I think just blasting it with air should do for the most part. Just a few places I want to tackle. See a few stains on the board we can pick up with IPA. Looks like just leftover flux from when this board was assembled. Not a big deal. And would you look at that? This main board looks so good now. I mean, it already looked decent to begin with, but this looks pretty much as close to new as I imagine any used PS4 out there is gonna look. And that's really saying something here, because just based on what we saw on the outside, and we found that cockroach in there, or whatever that bug was, and quite a bit of dust on the inside of the frame, the main board is looking quite good. So now we'll tackle the power board. That's weird, there's some Sharpie in the back. Is it a coincidence that it looks like it says me, and then like a frowny face looking thing, maybe, kind of, sort of? I don't know. Strange. Here's the hard disk drive. Nice. And lastly here we've got the PS4's fan, which, yeah, this is pretty dusty, so I think I'm gonna take this outside with the electric duster. Anyone else hold their breath when they see dust flying everywhere in a video? And we can finish cleaning the rest inside. And taking your advice from the previous PS4 video, actually it was a PS4 Pro, I'm gonna use a brush this time to get further inside these special little fins here. They are, well, not fins, or blades more specifically. And I think it's working. We're getting all the way in there, whereas before my Q-tip wouldn't get all the way in there. We could, you know, get it started, but then past about here, you'd see it gets stuck. So that's where the brush comes in handy. These blades are still kind of dirty. I mean, there's definitely less dust on them now that we've taken the electric duster to it, but we definitely need to keep going over this with our brush here. for a little while longer. And behind each set of blades for good measure. Also want to clean the connector. I'm really excited to see how this is all going to look when it's put back together. It's going to look virtually brand new because these parts were already in pretty stellar condition given their age. I've said that like 5 times in this video now. Sorry for the repetition. I just keep thinking it in my head because everything is cleaning up so nicely. And here we are, folks. This fan looks so freaking good. Trying not to toot my own horn too much here, but I'm so pleased with how well this turned out. It looks virtually brand new. And one last thing to check on this heatsink here. I took it outside and sprayed it down with some water because there was some dust that had just become adhered to the fins. And you can see now, looking through, it is so much cleaner. Looks, again, I know I've said this a lot, looks almost brand new. And here we are, a PS4 fully disassembled. The exception is the optical drive, which I've explained why I don't disassemble those in previous videos, but we still did clean it. Everything else, though, needs to be reassembled, and that's another pill to swallow because I have to remember where all this stuff goes. Wish me luck. So the first thing we need to do is situate this heatsink thing, whatever it's called. We're gonna slide this right back into position here. Oh crap, I forgot the fan. Okay, that's the first thing that goes in, and then we put the metal plate on. So easy does it. Should sit just like that. And now, slide this back on top. And then this, I believe, is held in by one screw here. And then we'll have these two in the middle. Now we're gonna repaste our APU with some Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut goodness. Want to add a bit more than we think. It's always better to overshoot it than undershoot it. I think that's probably quite a bit too much, but it still shouldn't hurt temperatures. In our testing, this is just fine. Now we can install the main board upside down, of course, which is kind of awkward. And then we'll go ahead and reconnect this fan so we don't forget later. Now we'll get the back plate taken care of, this little plastic piece first, and then this will sit on top of that. And we've got these 2 large Phillips screws to thread all the way through. Now we can get the other half of the metal frame installed. This is gonna sit right here. And I think, yep, I think that's everything. All right, now it's just a bunch of screws. Oh, and I can't forget this little, this little grill here. We also probably don't wanna forget the power button. That needs to be taken care of. There we go, and we want to make sure it's functional. Yep, sounds good to me. We'll take care of this cover right here. Just sits like that, and then 2 more Torx screws. There are so many of these, it gets, it definitely gets old after a good while. Got a bit of the top cover assembled, and now I think we can go ahead and install the hard drive. I'm gonna remove this a lot earlier, but we can just go ahead and get this out of the way. Let's set the drive in the tray, tighten it down, install it. Slides on in and secure it. This one twists a lot of times. Nice. We're gonna slot it into position. Nice and carefully. There we go. And we'll take care of these ribbon cables for good measure. The board sits right somewhere right there. There we go. And we have 2 separate Phillips screws for this. Flat heads. In goes the ribbon cable we threaded from behind to the main board. Right, and with this smaller circuit board here installed, I think the next thing we need to do is tackle the power supply. Oh, almost forgot, we have the antenna to take care of. Now this, let's see if I can recall where this has to run. I think it goes something like this here to this, and then here to there, and see right inside, there's a little clip there. Get it to fold in. There we go. And then inside that one, and this just clicks back into the main board. All right, now we can focus on power supply reassembly. If I can remember which way this went. It would really help if I took notes along the way. I think it goes this way. And this actually threads through here. Yes, now this seems right. And should just be as easy as connecting the 5-volt line here. Then we just want to carefully set it down. Just like that. Next is this shield. Somewhere, here it goes. And we'll clean that up again in a second. It's got some fingerprints and smears on it. 2 long Phillips screws drop all the way through. We can tighten these down. Whoops, this screw went on a bit too early. We'll get this panel lined up. There we go. And now we can tighten this one down. Same goes for this one up front. Now at this point, the last couple plastic pieces remain. This one here, you just slide on from the, well, from your right. Let's see. There we go, just like that. And then upside down here, what we just worked on, we've got this rather annoying bottom cover. Let's see if it's easier to get on than it was to take off. I imagine that will be the case. Okay, yeah, way easier to put back on, as I expected. Okay, so the PS4 is ready to go. We just have 2 more screws here at the rear. Remember, these were behind the warranty stickers. So it's gonna be 1 and 2, and I actually forgot to clean up the goo left over from the stickers themselves, so I'll get some IPA and we'll clean that up. That looks so much better. And now it's time to fire this thing up again to confirm that it still works. I don't really have any doubts this time around because, I mean, this just went so smoothly. This is my 3rd or 4th PS4 Pro teardown. So, you know, after the first couple tries, it's pretty much just like clockwork. All right, so I think it's just checking the storage and stuff. It probably notices that we took everything apart. So it's just running some hardware checks, but that's good. We have a picture out. It appears like it's gonna post, and I'll double check that we get to that home screen before turning it back off. So that's it. Deep cleaning this PS4 isn't all that difficult. If you have one and you haven't cleaned it in several years, I invite you to take it apart, especially now that your warranty's already kind of out the window because it's just too old, right? Take it apart, deep clean it, you know, especially around the fan and the heat sink, and possibly even repasting your AP. You might as well do that. It's the one thing you probably should do while you're in there. I guarantee that it'll make your console run quieter and it'll last a lot longer as well. This console looks really good, almost like it just came out of the box brand new. It doesn't have that new smell. It's probably the one thing it is missing, but the plastic's really cleaned up nicely. Whoever owns this, the owner of the system, really took care of it, and you can tell. I mean, not only was it not super dusty, but it also didn't have any major scratches or stains on it, just from carelessness and abuse, which a lot of these consoles experience over the years, especially when they're owned by younger folks. This being my 4th or 5th PS4, I've become very familiar with these, so it's pretty much just, you know, the same kind of robotic routine over and over, and that's what I wanted at the end of this. Like, I'm very thankful to those, first off, who send me their consoles to deep clean. They kind of just trust me with them, and of course, if I screw anything up, if I, you know, break something, snag something, if I can't fix it myself or fix it in a way that I feel is up to par with factory standards, then I will completely just outright replace your console. Some people have very sentimental consoles and they want me to deep clean them, and I'm just a bit hesitant there because they're your babies. And you know, at the end of the day, worst case, something like that's just irreplaceable because it is sentimental. I just don't want to be in that position because you never really know. You take one of these apart, especially after it's never been opened for, heck, a decade or longer, and something snaps and I need to replace it. And then it's not truly factory OEM anymore, and it might not carry that same sentimental value to you. And so that's kind of why I try to stay away from those. But just, you know, your average PS4, PS4 Pro, we did an Xbox 360 Elite in a previous episode. We have a few other Xboxes lined up. Those consoles are more than welcome. I even had somebody reach out about a GameCube. That'll be a fun one. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to let me know by giving this one a thumbs up. That would be greatly appreciated. If you live in the Orlando, Florida area and you have a very disgusting game console, again, it could be anything from as old as like a Commodore to something as new as a PS5. I'll even attempt a PS5 fix. Now, if I have to replace that, that's gonna be a pretty penny on my part. But if it is a genuine concern that you have, for some reason it's just super disgusting, even though it should only be a few months old, I'll even clean those. But I don't expect that we'll run into too many of the newer consoles. This is meant to kind of bring and restore life to older consoles, much like we do with the PCDC series. So that support is greatly appreciated. Info of how to apply to have your system cleaned for free is in the video description, along with all of our cleaning gear. That support is also greatly appreciated. Comment down below, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for deep cleaning with me.